There are a lot of employees here at Linus Media Group.
And while yes, most of us are gamers and computer enthusiasts,
even more of us have passions for tech that extends beyond a keyboard and mouse.
We each have brought one of our personal favorite tech items to show off to you guys.
And even share a story about why we enjoy them so much.
But not before we share the segue to our sponsor.
Delete Me. Add another layer to your online privacy toolkit with their data removal plans. Stay safe surfing the web. Go to joindeleteme.com/LTT20 and use code LTT20 for 20% off their plans today.
Hello, I am Alex Clark. I'm one of the writers for Linus Tech Tips, and I have brought here today my wonderful Volkswagen Golf GTI. Now there's two things that you can do when you get a Golf. You can either take up vaping, but that's not healthy for you. So instead, I slapped a great big subwoofer in the back so that I can make my neighbors hate me whenever I drive by. To get power for everything, we go from the battery to this asininely large fuse. I don't know why it's so big. Everything else uses like mini fuses. This one right here, anything but mini, but it's 100 amps and it delivers it. Our 4-gauge power cable comes back to here where we have 3 more fuses that are power distributed to the different amps, and we have 3 more fuses over on this side to make sure that if anything in here explodes, it only takes out itself and not anything else around it. The real star of the show is right here, the Mini DSP 8x12 DL, which gives me direct live room correction. The reason that is so great is that in every single car that I've ever driven that sounds amazing, like in particular the Volvo S90, but from other manufacturers as well, is that direct live tuning. So I wanted that in my car, kind of built around it. For amps, we have about 1,300 watts of amplifier power. I based that number off of other cars that I had driven that had apparently 1,400 watts of power, but I can tell you for sure that those were ILS values because this is so much louder than the sound systems in any of those things. It is ridiculous. One thing I definitely went a bit overboard with is the subwoofer. This is literally the largest subwoofer that you can fit in here without completely reconfiguring the trunk, and it is the JL W6 V3. It's able to do 600 watts and goes down to something like, I think it rolls off at 22 hertz in this cabin. My design was to get it to about 90 decibels at 20 hertz, but it turns out I'm getting like 40 dB of cabin gain because of how small this is. You can really compress the air in it. It's friggin' wild. Actually, I've never just like looked at this going. Should we do that right now? We're just gonna take off this grill right quick so we can have a nice look at it doing all of the wubs. But you can see that the grill has been struck by the back structure here because I didn't quite measure it out correctly. As you can see, there's about 3/4 of an inch of spacers that are very high quality. I'll probably never get around to improving it. But that said, it's only really ever a problem if I'm doing what, like 20 hertz with a bunch of stuff in the back of the trunk. It's not an actual problem. All right, let's have a look at this here. I've got control on my laptop. Let's set it to just -5 dB. Oh my God, that's loud. This should do some stuff. Oh, there we go. It really moves. It has an inch X max. We're going for a quick drive here because the people that were filming inside started getting mad at us. When you have that much sound in a car, you need to make sure that you control it. I stripped out literally every single part of the interior of this, so the entire thing is sound deadened, and man, the final results of this are freaking crazy. Every single speaker is in phase at the driver's seat, which means you get something that's called phantom imaging, where it sounds like the voice is coming from right here and all of the instruments are very neatly organized from that speaker to this speaker. It could be a little bit better. Things in the high range like cymbals tend to skew a little bit to the right hand side because the factory locations kind of suck, but without just completely tearing this apart and redoing all of the speaker locations, I think this is literally as good as it can get. I also have 2 modes down here, so driver and everyone in the car. Should we have a listen? The clarity of this is way beyond what Crabbery will give us, but let's have a little looky look. All right, here we go. Thanks for this segment. Let's go to the next one.
My name's Jake Bellavance, otherwise known as Bell, and I'm the short circuit producer here at Linus Media Group, and I'm showing off something real special today. I'm showing off the Wheel 2 by Minoy. I don't know how to pronounce it, and they don't actually say it in any of their promotional videos, but it is a record player. It's actually the one that's been sitting on the short circuit set for the last 2 years or however long we've had this new set design for, and people have been asking why we have such an expensive record player on our set, because this thing is over $2,100 US. And honestly, I don't really know why. So the Wheel 2 is actually an old Kickstarter from, I think like 7 or 8 years ago, but it kind of stayed in limbo for quite a while. And then they finally released it, and it's beautiful, handcrafted from Holland? Sweden? Editor, choose the right one. Norway? Spain? By just like a single guy and his son, which is really cool. It's got a walnut or cherry finish, and as you can see, it can be vertical or horizontal, but that's not all. There's no needle or tone arm or cartridge that you can see, but luckily this clear record shows off. It's actually underneath. So you put on the record and it plays on the backside and spins the wrong way to accomplish that, which is very odd, but looks amazing. Taking off this clear record here so you can see, this is the record player itself, and it is a looker. You're buying this because you're bougie. You like a glass of whiskey on the rocks and sitting alone. Yeah. When we put this on, we have this very minimal interface. So we have a scroll wheel up here that also presses down in 3 buttons. As you can see, it starts spinning it. But what's really cool, and is actually what first grabbed my attention, is that you can grab the record and spin it to make it start playing, which is so extra. So on the way, while it's going across to line up for your first song, it actually scans the record to see how many songs are on it and where they are, so you can skip tracks if you want to go to the next song without having to seek or kind of like move the needle yourself like on other record players. The lights up here will actually show you where the tracks are, so you can jog through songs, or just see on the LED where each track is and how long it is. Another cool thing is the number of adjustments this thing makes on the fly. So it uses a series of motors to keep the needle aligned with the song you're listening to, even if there's warps or bumps in the record, so that you're getting the best listen no matter the quality of the record. A standard record player will always play at 33 or 45 RPM, but this one will make adjustments so that if it's kind of moving side to side, it'll change the speed so you're getting a consistent sound, not just the same speed and sound. One thing you might not notice is how impressive it is that it can see where the tracks are even on a transparent record. I actually have a record player at home that can sense where songs are, and you can play the album in different orders and things like that, but it doesn't work on transparent albums because it just can't see them. So the fact that it works with a clear record is super cool. But what if you don't want a fancy stand for your record player? Well, they have an included key, and you can just take these legs off. And then these pop out, and bam, it's your traditional horizontal record player. So fancy. It's got little feet on the back. Blur those. A lot of people ask, do you want to listen to records? I have a big collection, as you could have seen in my AMD upgrade. Go watch it now. I don't really have a great answer. I like having the large album artwork. I also like being forced to listen to a whole album. Like, what was your Spotify Wrapped top song of the year? Have you listened to that whole album? Probably not. It's so nice to actually sit down and listen to what the artist made from start to finish. But overall, the Wheel 2 by Minoy is pretty darn cool. If I had an extra, $2,100 US in my pocket, would I buy this? What did you guys think? Did this convince you to spend way too much money on starting an expensive hobby? I hope so.
My name's Nicholas Plouffe, and I'm a writer here at LMG, and I brought my AirBrush. It is a Squidmar Ultra from Harder and Steenbeck. I bought it because I play Warhammer 40K, and in Warhammer 40K, play Tau, which is a robot faction. Well, it's a whole thing. It's a faction with a lot of mechs and robots and flat panels, and if you want to paint them really nicely, an airbrush is great for that because you get these really even flat coats of paint. For instance, I brought 2 models, and we'll see if you can tell which one I painted by hand with a brush and which one I painted with the airbrush. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding, 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 ding. It's this one. If it wasn't obvious, there's just a lot fewer brush strokes. The color is a lot more flat and consistent as well. This one looks all swirly and whatnot. Admittedly, I'm using contrast paints or speed paints because I really just love the exact shade of blue-green that Croxagore Scales gets me from the contrast line. It just doesn't go on very evenly because contrast wants to like seep into the small spots and pool and make these dark spots. And so because of that, I've got an airbrush. It makes it nice and flat. I am not an artist. As much as I've got like a half decent airbrush, I splurged after I had like a cheap $60 Amazon airbrush kit for quite a while. Once I got used to that, I was just priming with it for the most part and putting on base coats. I just wanted something nicer, and Squidmar was doing this really cool promo for this guy. He's also got the Evo and a couple other very similar looking ones to this. And yes, I figured, you know what, I've been doing this hobby for a couple years now, I'm gonna treat myself, and so I did. I've also got a compressor. You need one of these guys to actually run your airbrush. Give it a second. It's gotta fill the tank. There it goes. I bought this one in particular because of how many different little features it's got, and it's great for a starting artist. Squidmar pitched it pretty well. Basically, after you press down, you hold back to release all the paint. And the problem with that in most airbrushes is, as soon as you pull all the way back and you don't have any control, you're gonna just let loose everything. And while you're learning, it's really hard to actually maintain the exact spot you want it to be at. Once you've been doing it for a long time, I'm sure it's easy, but I really haven't. And so this comes with a bunch of different toggleable options. On the main setting, it's fully open and you can just pull back as much as you want and let loose as much as you want. But then, if you can see on this ring, it's got these little indentations so that when you pull back, it's only gonna go a little bit back. It'll stop, there we go. This is really great for when I wanna do like a big priming job and I just set it to prime and I know it's gonna do the exact consistency I want it to do every single time. And then say I wanna move to my base coat or even one of the layers, I just set it to 3, 2, 1, depending on how fine I want it to be. So do you need an airbrush if you wanna get into painting Warhammer or other minifigures? Because you can get a 3D printer and print whatever you want, paint whatever you want. No, but it's really convenient. I would highly recommend, if you are going to get into airbrushing, don't just buy a cheap air compressor, buy one that has a tank, because right now it's pretty sick how this thing is just on and it's got a bunch of air ready to go and it's not going at us the whole time. Bigger tank means it's gonna have to load up the air less frequently, but it's also gonna cost more money. There are many airbrushes like this one, but this one is mine. I don't know how else to outro. But
thanks for coming to my show, Phil.
Wow, yeah, that's a good one.
My name is Shawn. I am the business development lead here at Linus Media Group, which means I work very closely with Colton and the sales team and our procurement team and everyone else in the business department. And I love drones. I like them a lot. I got my first drone kind of on a whim. And so I got this guy right here. My little Aria is a Mavic Air 2. I bought that on my birthday, in 2020. So at the height of a bunch of things that were going on in the world back in 2020, if you can remember. And I needed something to get me out, but in a way where I could be by myself. And so I went out to Best Buy, got this thing, and it's the best $1,400 I've ever spent in my life, Canadian. And I could not fly it because turns out I need a license. So I got my basic license, which was a multiple choice question, the night I bought this, because I realized I don't want to get charged like 30,000 Canadian for getting a fine for flying a drone. It's a lot. And then I could fly it some places in Vancouver, but we have a ton of airports here. So I realized I need my advanced license. So I got that in like 2 months. I can kind of fly this almost anywhere. Just don't fly at airports once you have your advanced license. Even if you do, that's a no-no. The following year, I got this, the Avatar. So this is a FPV drone, so first person video drone. So these things are really good if you're trying to do, let's say, car chases for Channel Super Fun. Colton and Dennis, they went to like a police school, kind of car school kind of thing, and they were racing. And so I shot that with this. And it was really fun because I was like the first 2 days I've had this drone, I got to break it in on a CSF video, which was super great. And it's really cool because you get to wear one of these goggles on, and this is what it looks like on me. But yeah, it's kind of dinky, but when you're flying by yourself, you kind of can't see anything. So I usually have my fiance, Mia, she joins me as my flight controller when I'm out there on the field. So obviously I was happy with these two, right? Wrong. The Mavic 3. I love this thing. Okay, but I have a little peeve to pick with DJI. DJI is essentially the Apple of drones, but they're actually the only ones you could really get a decent consumer drone for that has, decent imagery and stuff like that. But I bought this, and then I think almost a month later, they announced the DJI Mavic 3 Pro, which was essentially this drone, but better for the same price. And because I'd already binded this to my Transport Canada account and flown it a little too much, I couldn't return it. Yeah, each of these drones excel in a different thing. This thing's great for portability if you want to just take it out for some beautiful landscape shots or take it through the forest or whatever have you, right? This thing's more so a burlier camera, but this also has a ton of obstacle avoidance too. So if I'm out there in a forest and I want to do, let's say, like a circular shot or something else, or a kind of move that makes me sweep my drone back and forth, this thing's going to survive a lot more and protect itself over something like this, which I've crashed at least 3 times into trees doing that same shot. Gotta risk it for the biscuit. This thing, on the other hand, is really durable. I've rolled this, I've tumbled this, I've taken this into some really gnarly races. So I've done like bike races before too. I've followed different riders and stuff like that. And I've crashed this and it keeps on going. You can't do that with these. You break one of their arms, they're done. And that's the cool thing about having different types of drones for different purposes is it gives me a new way to engage with the world around me. I got hooked with the Mavic Air 2, and as you can see, it's not spiraling, but it's scaling accordingly. For those of you who want to be a beginner in the drone space, probably don't want to get any of this. You probably want to get something that's a sub 250 drone. And so remember that whole story about me needing to get my license? Well, this thing weighs more than 250 grams. Actually, all of these do. In Canada, if your drone is less than 250 grams though, you don't need a license to fly it. You do need common sense, so please equip that and make sure you're not flying anywhere you shouldn't be, but you can essentially buy one of those sub 250 drones. DJI has a few of them still, like the DJI Neo or whatever have you, and you can just pick up and play and go from there. And those are fantastic drones to build off of. And if I could do it again, I probably would have done that instead of waiting a little bit to fly this thing. That's drones for me, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me talking about my different drones here.
For my show and tell, I decided to bring in this segue to our sponsor.
Delete Me. It may be winter still, but if you're up for surfing the web instead of riding the waves, make sure you're protected. Delete Me's data removal service targets pesky data brokers that peddle your information online to the highest bidder and request them to be deleted. Simply set up your account and Delete Me will periodically send out privacy reports to show you which of the hundreds of data brokers on their hit list have your private info, like email, phone numbers, addresses, and more. They have family plans too, meaning up to 3 other loved ones can stay protected, all managed under one easy-to-use dashboard. So go to joindeleteme.com or click our link in the description and get 20% off a plan that suits your needs by using code LTT20 at checkout.
If you guys enjoyed this video, go check out the very first time we did it. It was over 3 years ago, but also leave a comment down below about what product you would show off.